I'm Nicholas Ballasy here at the National Press Club with the publisher and CEO of the Washington Post, Fred Ryan. Fred, thanks for taking some time to speak with me here at the event.
Pleasure.
So I wanted to ask you what steps you're familiar with that have been taken so far at the Washington Post, working with possibly, for example, the State Department to free Austin Tice and move this process along to eventually bring him home here to the U.S.
Well, we're anxious to do anything we can to help get him back home. If you saw today's Washington Post, there was a very strong editorial urging his return. Last year on this date, there was one. Our journalists are covering this story, and we think that his family is doing a remarkable job. We're trying to support them any way we can. His parents are really going through the worst ordeal that parents could possibly imagine, but they have been brave and relentless in securing his release, and that's something that we really admire.
You mentioned during your speech that the Washington Post cares as much about the freelancers as they do the staffers. Could you talk a little bit about what precautions are put into place when you have a freelancer or a staffer overseas submitting content to keep them safe? What kind of safeguards are put in place?
Well, the safety of our journalists, whether they're staff or freelancer, is paramount. And that's one of the risks people going into war zones is that you encounter lots of dangers, but the instructions to all of our journalists, and I know that thoughtful news organizations around the world are to cover the story the best they can, but to avoid putting themselves in harm's way to the extent they can avoid it.
So my first question for you is, what's it been like in terms of communication with the current State Department? Are they keeping you up to date on what's going on in terms of efforts to bring Austin back? Are you satisfied with what's been happening so far? And anything else you'd like to add would be great.
Yeah. First thing I want to point out is that the effort within the U.S. government to bring Austin safely home goes far beyond just the State Department. And we have deep and strong relationships, good communication across a number of different areas of government. State Department is one of them, but then of course there's the Hostage Recovery Fusion Cell, which is made up of a blended group, across a number of departments and agencies. So yes, the communication is strong. Are we satisfied with what they're doing? We can't be satisfied with what anybody's doing, right? We're not satisfied with what we're doing.
Sure.
And frankly, as much as we appreciate it, all the very kind words that people were saying tonight, for instance, all come down to, well, wait a minute. No one, whether it's the United States government, ourselves, or anyone else, has gotten the job done. So no, we're not satisfied. And there's always something more that we're asking for and hoping.
I read about the secure channel that the CIA had opened that was reported by many outlets to help this process move along and figure out where he is and get him home. And now that Pompeo, who was working on that, is at the State Department, do you think that could help? Because now he's moved from the CIA over to State, and he's familiar with the process of what the progress that's been made to get him home?
Well, like I said tonight, we strongly support and advocate for engagement, direct engagement between the United States government and the Syrian government. It only makes sense. We think that the Syrian government can absolutely help bring Austin home safely, and it only makes sense to us that the two governments, on a purely humanitarian basis, communicate and work together on Austin's case. And a full stop. Engagement is really the key to resolving any kind of conflict or issue.